Welcome to the Forge, my wanton wildlings. I'm your creepsmith, and I hope you like my work.
When it comes down to it, our individual worlds are pretty small. Little cycles of habits and disruptions that lead to new habits. But we know that these cycles must inevitably end, right? So we find ourselves in the home stretch in tonight's reading, the Flesh Interface series, posts 96 to 100, by 9 Mother 9 Horse 9 Eyes 9. 96th post. Mother has put a nail in my brain. Mother's put a nail in my brain. The nail stays still. Everything else moves. Last year, me and my family took a trip to California. My dad got to drive on the Pacific Coast Highway. He really loves cars, and it was his dream to drive on that highway since he was a little boy like me. But he didn't get to drive on it much because I got really car sick. We kept having to stop, and then we just went home. My dad didn't say anything on the way home. Why did Mom and Dad leave me behind? Was it because of stuff like that? Because I'm too much of a baby? I feel like I'm carsick now. The medicine makes everything look like it has colored shadows. Everything's going different ways in different colors. I can see things that don't happen and things that do. Things that try to happen but don't get to. It's too confusing. Outside it's sunny, but I stay in bed so I don't feel so sick. If I lie in bed, I only see a few things. Me lying this way or that way, but if I get out of bed, I see 1,000 different me's. I'm doing different things and crowding everything up like Where's Waldo? It makes me dizzy. Mother comes in and puts 3 big stones on the floor by my bed. I don't know why. I just watch them. They just sit there, doing nothing. I think about pushing one of them away, and then it's covered with colored shadows. The shadows show things that could happen, but don't. So, I make this a game. Watching what could happen. After a few days, I start feeling a little better. I see colors, but they don't make me sick all the time. When Mother comes to give me more medicine, I tell her I'm hungry. "Make some food then, dear," she says with her bird voice. "How?" She points to the stones. "Command that these stones be made bread," she says, in a new voice, a man's voice. I look at the stones, but now they're colored with more shadows and moving every different way. It looks like colored fire, but I don't know what to do. I say, "Stones, turn into bread," and I shake my finger at them like Harry Potter pointing a wand. Then I see a color of fire that I haven't seen before. It works. The stones are bread. Mother laughs. Mother leaves and I eat the bread. It's wonderful, just like my favorite bread from Tony's, warm and squishy. But how did it happen? Is this magic? Real magic? I drop the bread and run to the window. The street is empty. It's almost sunset. I close my eyes and I make a special magic spell. When I open my eyes, yes, there it is, coming down the street. Mom and Dad's car. 97th post. I need answers. The back of my neck feels all hot and boggy when I wake up. I hate that. The air conditioner in this motel room makes a lot of noise, but it's just a big show. I close my eyes and hope sleep takes me away somewhere dark and cool, but it doesn't. Reality persists. I've been tapering off booze for the past few days. It is amazing how timid and jittery I've become when the alcohol is oozing its way out of me. I haven't even worked up the nerve to call the motel manager and complain about the air conditioning. To think I lived for years in this helpless, reclusive state. What a fucking waste. The whole time, I thought the alcohol was giving me courage when it was stealing it from me. I can't drink anymore. I need courage. I'm down to my last $200. I could call good old mom and dad and ask them for some help, but what kind of conversation would that be? Why am I broke? Well, I took some time off so I could write a book. About what? Oh, you know, tripping acid, Nazis, finger blasting, cats. No, I'm not gonna call old mom and dad. I'm not going back to the sober house either. I'm going to get some answers. I'm going to call Sean. Sean shows up at the motel right after he gets off work. I'm surprised because we'd gotten into a lot of arguments toward the end, and I left on pretty bad terms with him. I'm standing in the parking lot when his black truck pulls up, and my paranoia starts to flare. Maybe he saw the story online and he was outraged. Maybe he's been looking for me. He strides up and he gives me a quick hug, patting me stiffly on the back. He steps back and squints at the dingy face of the motel. I know this fucking motel, he says quietly. Come on, man. Let's get your stuff. Get my stuff. You said you're sober, right? Already talked to the house manager. He'll take you back. We got a bed, he says. I'm not going back to the house. I asked you to come here because I want to know where that warehouse is, the one downtown. Sean turns and looks me in the eye. Why do you want to know that? I tell him the story. I tell him about Mother Horse-Eyes, the Nazis, the CIA, the LSD, the experiments, most of the stuff that I've told you. I leave out some parts, like the fact that he's in the story, that we are in the story, that all of this right now is in the story. He listens to me, but his face darkens. Maybe he thinks I'm crazy or high or full of evil spirits. Listen to me, I say, working myself up to deliver my big speech. I've lived things which are impossible, which could not have happened. So have you. Those tunnels, those cages, the bones, none of it should exist, but you saw it. I've seen things too. We have to find out what it is. I lived with that monster for a whole summer. I know she's down there, and I want to find her. Sean narrows his eyes as he stares at me. What's down there is the devil, Nick. If you go down there, you won't come back. I want to see her. I want to know. Please, I say to him, my voice breaking. I just want to know why I'm so fucked up. You're fucked up because you drink all day, and you got character defects, like me, and everybody else. That's it. Don't you want to know what's going on down there? You're not curious? No. It doesn't eat at you? You don't need any answers? He shakes his head. God doesn't promise answers. God gave us all the answers we need in the Bible. That's all we get. I don't ask him what's going to happen in the future. I don't do horoscopes. I don't practice witchcraft. God's not going to come down and give me the answers to everything. All he wants from me is obedience. Oh, come on. So we shouldn't try to figure things out? We shouldn't ask questions? That's just some anti-intellectual, anti-science bullshit. When we were roommates and we got into disagreements, he would start quoting the Bible at me, and I would start picking at him with snide intellectual arguments, using as many big words as I could. We're falling back into this same dynamic. Anti-science, he says. Shit. I'm not telling you don't be a scientist. I'm saying don't go into a tunnel with fucking bones on the walls, man. I find myself laughing at this. He smiles with me. For real though, man, It's dangerous, he says, the smile fading. I look out across the crumbling parking lot. Long evening shadows are drawn across the asphalt. Man, I don't know. I just feel like if I could figure out what happened during that summer, then maybe I wouldn't be so fucked up. I've obsessed about this shit for 25 years or so, and now there's a chance to get some answers. Just let it go. No, there has to be an ending. There has to be some kind of payoff. Moses and the people wandered in the desert for 40 years looking for the promised land. One day the Lord took him up to a mountaintop and showed him all of the promised land. And Moses died right there without ever setting his foot on the land. You know what kind of Lord does that? A messed up one, I muttered. The Lord knows that we are generations. Man is of few days. Generations might pass before we get any answers. For the last 10 years, I've been living like the world might end any day, but I'm not doing that anymore. I have to remember that we know neither the day nor the hour when the Son of Man cometh. That's why I'm going back to school and all that. I nod. Through the course of our little debates, I had told him many times that the world wasn't going to end anytime soon. The world was going to go on and on like it always did, in a fucked up and confused state. Maybe some of that rubbed off on him. Maybe some of it should be rubbing off on me right now. I need answers, I told him. I've tried just accepting the mystery and whatever, but at this point I just need to know why I'm all fucked up. Why I can't stop drinking. Why I can't be normal. Man, I could tell you where that warehouse is, but what are you going to do when you go down there? What are you going to do when you meet the devil? I haven't told him that part of the story. It's a part that I'm not really sure that I believe myself. I think I've been given reason to believe that whatever's down there, I can destroy it. 98th post. Mother's in the kitchen. Do you know what she's cooking? As soon as I see the car, I rush downstairs. Mother's in the kitchen making noises, but I run right by her. Outside, the car pulls into the driveway. I run to it, smiling, but I slow down. Something's different about the car. Whose car is this? The door opens. I stop. Dad gets out. He's got that grumpy look that he usually has. He's wearing pajamas, but they have no buttons. Mom gets out of the car too. She comes out of the same door Dad did. She's wearing her blue dress, and I start to cry, and I run to her, and I hug her legs. She pats my head and says, There. It's okay, Nick. It's okay." "Where did you go?" I ask. I'm crying like a little baby. "Why did you leave me? Why did you go?" "We went to the store," Mom says. "But you were gone so long," I say. My face is smushed up against her side. "We went to the store and bought some dresses, and Dad got some stuff for his car." I look up at her. Her face is all blurry because I'm crying. I wipe my face. She looks down at me, smiling. Her face is smooth and glowing. "We stayed at the store for a few days," she says, and pats me on the head. "But it doesn't make sense to me." "Why did you leave me with the monster lady?" I ask. Mom stops smiling. "Monster?" "There's a monster in the house." "Nick," she says like she thinks I'm telling stories. "You weren't at the store for 3 days. Where were you?" "Nick," my dad says in his grumpy voice, "that's enough." I look at him. The shape of his face is weird. He usually has freckles on his cheeks, but they're not in the right places. I let go of Mom and look at her. She makes a little smile like she always does when she sees me. Oh, it's her. It's Mom. It's her face. But it's too... What's wrong with it? Mom's shirt moves. There's something underneath it. It's pushing and trying to get out. I step back. Her face sags like a water balloon and her cheek falls off. It hits the ground right in front of me with a big wet smack. It's lying there just like a raw piece of chicken. I scream and Mom falls apart. Her face falls to pieces and her whole body hits the ground like a sack of potatoes. The same thing happens to Dad. Their clothes are just lying on the driveway, but there's something inside them moving around. I scream and something screams back. It screams again, a tiny one, a little scream, and pokes its head out of my mom's dress. A kitty cat. Other cats slip out of the bottom of the dress and out of my dad's pajamas. A whole bunch of cats, all different colors. Mom and Dad's clothes just blow away like tissue, and the driveway is full of cats and pieces of meat. A few cats run away, some of them cry, some of them wander around and sniff and lick at the meat. Something pinches my shoulder and I scream. Mother's crab hand. She yanks my arm and drags me back into the house. I shout and I scream, but she holds me tight. She slams the front door shut and pushes me into a big metal cage in the kitchen. Her birds are pushing out of the front of her shoulders and her face. They're all missing eyeballs and covered with big golden flies, and all of them are tweeting and cackling at me. Your magic isn't strong enough to make whomever you want, she says in a deep voice. And the birds all giggle. Never will be, one of them shouts. 99th post. I am coming, Mother. I am coming. Mother locks me in the cage and sits down at the kitchen table. I scream and cry, but she doesn't move. Her horse eyes stare at the wall. The sun sets very slowly and the room goes dark. She's just the shape of a black mountain sitting at the table now. When the sun rises, her eyes are still on the wall. You were bad. Your magic was bad. You won't be bad again, she says. I hate you, I shout. I do. I hate her, hate her, hate her. Mother's birds giggle. She stands up from the table and all her golden flies scramble around. The bars in the cage slide to the side like magic. She reaches in and grabs me with her crab hand. It hurts so bad, and I scream and kick at her, but she doesn't care. She lifts me up and carries me into the living room. It's full of cages. When did they get here? There are naked kids inside the rows of cages. They're not scared like me. They're sitting cross-legged with their hands on their knees, sitting nice and still and straight with their eyes closed. I will show you what happens if you are bad, she says. We go to the back hall. There's the door to the basement. I don't like the basement. I cry and I ask her to please let me go. Please, please. She opens the basement door. Usually the basement is dark, but not this time. Light shines out of the door. I look inside. Inside is not the basement. It's alive. Grim stuff in the news lately. Gunshots popping like fireworks, people scrambling through shaky footage, cops dead in the streets. It hit 100 degrees today. It's supposed to hit 100 every day this week. What a strange summer it's become. Nobody can agree on what the truth is. They say the media is ignoring the problem. They say the media is causing the problem. The protesters are the problem, the cops are the problem, the whole thing is a false flag operation so that Obama can take our AR-15s away. It's a false flag so that they can crack down on Black Lives Matter, yada, yada, yada. Chemtrails crisscross the sky. Conspiracy theories clash in the comments sections. Single women in your area want to date now. Across the ocean, they're crucifying people again. I feel so much different than I did in the spring, less optimistic. I thought that maybe I'd achieve the dream of publishing a novel, and gee, wouldn't that be neat? But now I don't feel any excitement about it at all. Whether I publish something or not, I'll still be this friendless little specter holed up somewhere sneaking drinks. Money's pointless for a recluse that never does anything, and fame? It's a bicycle for a fish. There is nothing in my future. I'm going back to the past. I'm going to kill it. Mother doesn't care what I do, so long as I don't bother her. I make sure not to bother her. When she comes into a room, I sneak out, quiet as a mouse. I never go into the rooms with cages. I never, ever go near the basement. I just stay quiet and make sure not to get in trouble. I've been practicing my magic, doing small, secret things, making bread for myself out of stones. I make yummy cookies. My stuffed animals walk around and do fun things. My trucks race around a little track that I make. Magic is a lot of fun, but I'm afraid of making Mother mad. How long will Mother stay here? Will it be forever? I think it'll be forever. It makes me cry when I think about it. I can't even think about Mom and Dad for a little second before I start to cry. I came up with a neat idea. Lately, there are a lot of ideas in my head, like a crowd of people all talking at once. But one idea was very strong and clear. I tried to bring Mom and Dad to the house, but I couldn't do it right. My magic fell apart, and they turned into stupid cats. It's because Mom and Dad are on the outside. I can't make them do things with magic. I'm not strong enough. But I can make myself do things. Sean told me where the warehouse is. I'm going down there. I'm being called. By the shape of my entire life, I am being called. The story must end this way. Mother will be down there, and so I will try to destroy her. I've thought about bringing some kind of weapon, but what good would a weapon do against her? She who's everything, who has shaped my life across time and space. I feel exactly like I do when the evening comes. I've woke up so many mornings swearing that I won't drink that day, but 7 p.m. comes and I'm walking to the store, feeling none too wise, and I don't want to be walking to the store, and I know I'm making the wrong choice, but my feet keep moving me closer and closer. I know what I'm doing is wrong, but I do it anyways. I'm coming, Mother. I am coming. 100th post. So long, and thanks for all the chitinous cruciforms. I'm being changed. Mother's lessons are teaching me things, transforming me. At night, I lie in my little bed eating cookies and watching the ceiling. Then the seams open up and, wow, look at what's beyond them. Colors without names, stars from long ago, tunnels through the beyond. My magic is growing stronger. I can make things happen. I pray and wait, and they come to me. Every morning, little sparrows land on the tree branch outside my window. Mother says that I shouldn't be too greedy. Press at the curves, she says. Direct the flow. Don't move against it. I'm reading the Bible with the new words that I've learned. Christ had blood magic. The magic of suffering and desire and limitation. At night, Mother and I watch his soft flesh writhe and struggle on the hard architecture of the cross. Mother, he cries, behold your son. "Father," he cries, "into your hands I commit my spirit. Soon I will call my own little Christ unto these yellow sands." The other passengers on the bus seem unaware that I am headed toward a showdown which will decide the fate of all mankind. Am I still sane? I feel pretty sane. I'm not drooling at the mouth. I'm not shouting at the pigeons. But what really makes me feel sane is that I can still recognize that my actions are insane. I am going to confront a sinister entity which has been shaping the course of human events since prehistory, which may one day enslave all of humanity. And I'm doing it wearing an old Garth Brooks t-shirt. As I step off the bus and onto the blinding summer sidewalk, I'm reminded of the brave Marines piling out of their landing vehicles and onto the beaches of Iwo Jima. Yes, brave warriors are we. They say that one of the hallmarks of delusional thinking is grandiosity. The delusional man often thinks himself to be part of some grand struggle when there really is no struggle but that in his mind. A pigeon bobs across my path and I mutter, "Fuck off." Google Maps leads me through the streets. I expect to see a bunch of crackheads milling around, but everything is empty. In the sunshine, it looks like an ordinary factory street. The warehouse itself is just a dusty old brick building with scribbles of spray paint and boarded up windows. It's not even especially shitty. The front door is chained up, but I check the boarded windows and I find... The front door is chained up, but I check the boarded windows and I find a board that bends back easily. A musty smell seeps out of the dark. Fuck. Am I really doing this? Sweat already coats my face. I fish a flashlight out of my backpack and I turn it on. Inside the warehouse, my sweeping flashlight finds dusty shapes littering the floor. Old boxes, cinder blocks, and a gleam on the floor. Yeah, it's our first crack pipe. Or maybe a meth pipe. Is there a difference? Listening to people in the rooms has made me feel rather worldly when it comes to drugs, but it's all been secondhand stories. What do I really know? Sean said that there was a flight of stairs that led down to a door. The floor of the main room doesn't seem to have any stairs leading down, but there are a few doorways on the far side. I make my way over, stepping carefully through the debris. The middle doorway sits at the top of a short staircase. At the bottom, there's another empty doorway. The flashlight catches the glint of metal, a pair of torn hinges. When we were roommates, Sean always had such a cool demeanor, cool and poised and confident. But now, I see a new picture of him working with a hydraulic spreader, prying the door off its hinges, the metal groaning and shrieking, sweat coating his face, his eyes bright and wide with that terrible craving, that thing beyond hunger. I shudder and I step down the stairs. Sure enough, they lead to a tunnel. I move slowly, forced to press against some basic animal instinct to go back, to get the fuck out of there. But the tunnel is strangely plain and featureless, considering that it lies under a crack den and leads to a possible flesh interface. It's just dusty block walls with no light fixtures or anything. The tunnel leads to more tunnels, more stairs, empty rooms. The black air teems with bits of dust that shine in the flashlight. My skin tingles all over. Is it dust clinging to me, or is it just low-grade terror that's filled my body? It reminds me of that tingle that filled my limbs all those mornings before that first drink, how I'd begged for that feeling to end. But now I know it never will end. There will always be another awful morning, another fuck-up, another withdrawal, unless I go forward. Not away from the nightmare, but into it. But it goes on, and I can't believe how long the tunnels are, how many rooms there are, how deep the stairs go. I can taste the dust on my lips, and I pull my shirt up over my nose. Occasionally I come across an old metal chair or some rotting boards, but there's nothing else. I'm hoping to find some scrap of paper or maybe a name tag, some clue as to who built this monstrosity, but there's nothing. Nothing but dust. More and more dust. I stop, and I watch the dust float across my flashlight's beam. Holding out my sweating, shaking hand, I let a dark speck settle on my fingertip. Looking at it closely, I see that it's in the shape of a flake. Is it dust, or is it ash? A wave of dread moves through me. Could it be from a burned interface? Is this human ash? The wave of dread is followed by a flurry of nervous wisecracks. Fucking dust. What the fuck do I know about dust or ash? I'm not some dust expert. Maybe it's just flaky dust. Maybe it's dandruff. Maybe I'll find a huge cache of used wigs down here. Did you find an interdimensional portal? No, but these wigs are in pretty good condition. Look, we got a mid-60s Dusty Springfield here. I wipe my hand on my shirt and I keep moving forward. Just a few steps later, my flashlight finds the end of the block tunnel and the beginning of the rock cave, just like Sean said. God, can this be real? Maybe it's an ordinary rock tunnel. Maybe it's just part of an unfinished. Reaching out from the shadowy wall with its bony fingers splayed almost elegantly is the shape of a human hand. I stare at it for a moment, letting my eyes flood with tears before I have to kneel down and wipe my face. I'm not crazy. I have not been crazy all these years. Something happened. Something happened to me when I was a child, and I'm not just some fuck-up. I'm not just some piece of shit loser who can't keep his hands off a bottle. I have seen something. I have been touched by something vast and unimaginable. I stand and approach the hand. Yeah, it's a human hand, as real as my own hand holding the flashlight, except it's little more than bone wrapped in a gray papery skin. It extends from a wrist that's fused to a distorted mass of gray and black shapes. The flashlight passes over an awful collage of desiccated anatomy, rows of teeth, racks of ribs, pairs of eye sockets and hip sockets, snaking vertebra and femurs and tibias and clavicles. For a moment, I feel like I'm not standing on the ground, but I'm suspended over a pit full of bodies, like one of the great burning pits of Treblinka, only much vaster. These are not just the bodies from These aren't just the bodies from Treblinka, but from all of the camps, all of the prisons, all the pogroms, all the wars, all the plagues, all the indifferent machinery, the great unfeeling clock wheels of the cosmos which roll sublimely along, generation after generation, rending and crushing the human form into pieces, into powder, into dust, into ash. Vertigo encloses me. I totter and I find myself sitting on the ground, sweating and gasping. The jumble of body parts spins around me and I close my eyes. What is this? This vision of death? This dead clockwork universe? Stars and abyss, atoms and void? This is something beyond Mother, even more horrible and fundamental. Mother is at least alive, monstrous and devouring, but alive. Virulently fertile, she writhes and struggles within the vast tomb universe, binding times and worlds to... But the dizziness passes, and with it, the visions. The ideas slip away like fish in a stream. Sitting there in the afterglow of this near revelation, I think of what Sean said happened to him when he came to this cave. He said he smelled applesauce coming out of the tunnel, a smell that reminded him of his daughter. He said he could feel the presence of the evil one tempting him with dreams of family and love. I open my eyes and I pick up the flashlight and shine it down the tunnel. Is there anything down there? Anything to tempt me? The flashlight catches awful shapes along the walls, extending on until the beam of light fails, but I don't see anyone in the tunnel. I don't sense anyone waiting for me, and I don't smell anything but dust and ash and cookies. Little sugar cookies. My God, I remember. They were like the ones my mom used to make for me, but not quite the same. These were the ones that I used to make for myself, out of stones. The memory of it comes flooding up to me so hard that again my eyes are full of tears. Christ, I used to sit in my room with stones and turn them into cookies. I used to make them like Mom's, but they were always a little different. And that made me miss her even more. Impossible. Completely impossible. And yet, real. Real and floating in the darkness before me. I stand and I brush myself off. There is something at the end of the tunnel waiting for me. Good or evil, it will be an answer. A resolution. An end. I walk into the dark. I say my prayer and look out the window. For a long time, the street is empty. Then he comes, walking down the road, carrying a flashlight, even though it's light out. I rush downstairs. Mother is sitting at the kitchen table. I think of saying goodbye, but the gleam in her eyes tells me that there's no need. I go into the dim little front hall. A beam of daylight is shining through the peephole. There's a knock on the door. I wait, and the knob turns, and the door opens. This is it. The beginning. I walk into the light. The end. All good things, they say. The Interface series had its first post on April 22nd, 2016, and lasted until July of that same year. Its pseudonymous author remains anonymous despite rampant theorization and media attention. And, as in life, so many questions remain. Stay scary, my wildlings. Remember that dealing with our demons is up to us, and make the most of your nights. At least until Q takes over.